This happened about 3 years ago. I was 26 at the time, living in a pretty quiet suburb outside of Denver. My neighbors, the Hendersons, were an older couple who traveled frequently. They had this beautiful 2-story house with a big backyard. Whenever they went out of town, they'd ask me to house sit, water the plants, bring in the mail, that kind of thing. Easy money. That October, they asked me to watch the place for 2 weeks. I agreed without thinking twice. I'd done it before. Nothing had ever happened. The first week was completely uneventful. I'd stop by once a day, grab the mail, walk through the house, and leave. The Hendersons had given me a key and the code to their alarm system, which I set every time I left. But on day 8, something changed. I pulled into their driveway around 6 p.m., right as the sun was starting to set. The first thing I noticed was that the side gate was open. I always made sure to close it, and I was certain I had closed it. I told myself it was probably just the wind. I walked up to the front door and unlocked it. The alarm didn't beep when I entered. That meant it wasn't armed. That's when my stomach dropped. I always armed the alarm. Always. I stood in the doorway for a few seconds, just listening. The house was completely silent. No sounds of movement. No indication that anyone was inside. I convinced myself I must have forgotten to set it. Maybe I was distracted. I walked through the main floor, checking each room. Living room, clear. Kitchen, clear. Dining room, clear. Everything looked exactly as it should. I started to relax. I was probably just being paranoid. I decided to check the upstairs just to be thorough. I walked up the stairs slowly, still listening for any sounds. The first guest room was fine. The second guest room was fine. But when I got to the master bedroom, I stopped. The door was closed. I always left all the doors open when I walked through the house. I hadn't closed that door. I stood there for what felt like a full minute, just staring at it. My heart was pounding. Maybe the door had swung shut. I reached for the handle and pushed it open. The room was empty, but something was wrong. The bed was made, which was normal. The curtains were drawn, which was normal. But on the nightstand, there was a glass of water. The Hendersons had been gone for over a week. I hadn't put that glass there. I backed out of the room slowly, my mind racing. Someone had been in the house. Maybe someone was still in the house. I pulled out my phone and called 911 as I made my way back downstairs. I explained the situation to the dispatcher. They told me to leave immediately and wait outside. I was halfway down the stairs when I heard it, a creak. It came from above me, from the hallway I had just walked through. I didn't look back. I ran down the rest of the stairs, out the front door, and across the lawn to my car. I locked the doors and waited. The police arrived about 10 minutes later. 2 officers went inside while I waited in my car, shaking. They were in there for maybe 15 minutes. When they came out, one of them walked over to my car. "House is clear," he said. "No one inside." I asked about the glass of water. He said there was no glass on the nightstand. I know what I saw. That glass was there. But here's the part that still haunts me. When I got home that night, I found something in my jacket pocket, a folded piece of paper. I didn't put it there. I hadn't touched any paper all day. I unfolded it with shaking hands. Written in neat handwriting were the words, "You should lock your own doors." I lived alone at the time. My apartment was a 15-minute drive from the Hendersons' house. I checked every room, every closet, every possible hiding spot in my apartment. There was no one there. But someone had been in my pocket. Someone had been close enough to slip me a note without me noticing. I called the police again, but there was nothing they could do. No signs of forced entry at my place either. I changed my locks the next day and installed a security camera. I never house sat for the Hendersons again, and I still don't know who was in that house or how they got close enough to put that note in my pocket. Some nights I wake up and check my jacket pockets just to make sure there's nothing there.